Morning. That's a very sad microphone. Throughout the year, alumni from across the nation and sometimes from across the world send recommendations to the Alumni Association Board to bring recognition to our graduates who still demonstrate characteristics that are consistent with our mission, our vision, people who live lives of high character and high service. And I'm going to ask Linda Myette, our Vice President Advancement, to help me in bringing and recognizing those awardees this morning.
Good morning. It's such a privilege to have our guests with us, and it's always wonderful to see our students. So we're just so thankful that you could be here with us and celebrate. Our first award is the Dr. Jean A. Camp Loyalty Award. This is a fairly new award, and we are excited to be able to present it today to some very special people. Recipients of the Dr. Jean A. Camp Loyalty Award show uncommon faithful service to Greenville University without regard to one's professional success. They practice Christian principles in conduct and in their lives and the way they live out their lives. They support the mission, vision, and identity of the university, and additionally, they demonstrate continued love for learning, active involvement in Christian endeavors, and a commitment to their churches, their communities, and their families. Please join me as we watch a short tribute video, and then we're going to honor our awardees for this year.
I'm Galen Peters. I'm retired maritime mathematics faculty, and I spent about 38 years here teaching.
And I'm Ella Peters. I went to graduate school at Iowa State, or Galen did. I worked as a nurse, and we had our 3 children while we were there. When we were looking for a job, we heard of an opening here and interviewed, and that's how we came to Greenville. And we love Greenville. In fact, we decided long ago that we never want to leave Greenville. We'll go straight to the nursing home here because our children were educated here and they have friends here, and we love the place.
After a few years, I became chairman of the mathematics department, and I was hired by Calvin Burge. But one of the things that Calvin Burge and I did was rework the mathematics curriculum. It's still holding up today. We have a number of students that go on to do graduate work in mathematics. We're very pleased with the quality of students that we've been getting at Greenville. In the interest of keeping relevant to current developments in the field of mathematics, I got a sabbatical, and McDonnell Douglas agreed to hire me to work for a year with them, which I did, and that year extended into 15 years of part-time work with McDonnell Douglas Research Laboratories. Several times offered for me to work full-time for them, but I always preferred teaching.
So the students is what makes teaching in Greenville so wonderful. We had to mass students over our house very often. And even to this day, we keep in touch.
One day, I walked into Marston Hall 201, and I turned to face the desk, and one of our horses was facing me, tied to the desk. This was April 1st. And so I thought after I recovered, I thought it was rather a fun joke, one time only. And I also noticed 2 seniors staring in the back doorway of Marston 201. So I knew those 2 seniors were behind it.
I worked as a registered nurse for 40-some years. And then I realized that Greenville College didn't have a gardener, and so I told them that if they would hire me at minimum wage, I'd be their gardener. And so I had free reign of the campus. There weren't any gardens, really. And so I spent 20 years at the college here and just retired this June.
And she is the gardener emeritus.
Yes.
Greenville University.
Yes. Unbelievable.
So we're both emeriti.
And that really delights us because we are really part of Greenville College, but we are not Greenville College graduates. And because we're such a part of the university, it's just a nice thing.
It's my pleasure to award Galen and Ella Peters the 2018 Dr. Jean A. Camp Loyalty Award. I might add that their son George is following in his father's footsteps, teaching mathematics here at Greenville, so the tradition carries on. The next award is for our Outstanding Young Alumna. Recipients of the Outstanding Young Alumnus Award are under the age of 40. Seems like that's really young these days, I don't know. Selection for this award considers the recipient's church and community service. They demonstrate notable accomplishments and often have received recognition in their field for their involvement in civic, community, and church activities. Let's watch a short tribute video for our Outstanding Young Alumnus of the Year.
My name's Evie Martin, and I grew up in Arlington, Texas, but now I live here in St. Louis, Missouri. I graduated from Greenville in 2001, and I had a double major in English and sociology. Then I went on to get a master's in theological studies and a master in divinity from Emory University. Currently, I'm serving as the pastor at the Gathering United Methodist Church in St. Louis. I'm the site pastor at Clayton. And prior to that, I was at a United Methodist Church in Springfield, Missouri. So I've been serving as a pastor in the United Methodist Church for 9 years. I went straight from Greenville overseas. I really felt called to a life overseas in a culture that was different from my own. Greenville helped me see that and get there in a lot of ways. So I spent 2 years living in Mozambique after graduating from Greenville. I also worked with Bob and Alice Snyder, who had been at Greenville up until that point. Bob was leaving to go be the country director for Food for the Hungry, and Alice was going with him, obviously, to start the first Greenville in Africa program. So it was a study abroad program. So I got to go with them and help kind of build that and put it into place. I've been back 8 times since I lived there, and I've taken groups from both churches that I've served. So just getting to share that love and that passion for what God is doing in the country of Mozambique, amongst the people, through the church in Mozambique, that lights me up. Greenville prepared me for being a pastor in a lot of ways that only make sense later. Primarily, I point to my English degree, just that love of writing, that love of literature, perfectly translates into the love of a sacred text and being able to capture big, lofty theological ideas from that and put them into writing and tell them in a story in a way that speaks to people. That's something I never would have imagined coming out of my English degree into pastoral life, but it absolutely does. I tried my hand at theater as well. I was in one play. I look back at that because I think it was really important for me in terms of presenting myself and being up in front of people, which was not something I ever thought I would do as a part of my vocation or my career, but now it is every single week. I would share with current students, I think it's really important to make the most of every moment, not to feel pressure in that, but just to to acknowledge where you are when you're there. Make those connections because those last a long time. It's an absolute honor to have received this award. I always think of outstanding alumni as people who have lived lives of service, who have consistently put other people in front of themselves, and it's made a difference. And so to think that Greenville thinks that about me, it just means a lot. You know, in a season where I'm, midway in my career, it gives me kind of a new fire and a new, just a new vision going forward that this matters. And Greenville gave me that gift. They honor me again today in doing that, and I'm just grateful.
Can't be here with us today because she is continuing to serve and carry out that passion for international ministry as she's on a trip to Puerto Rico. So her family, husband Scott, and come on up, Scott, and her 2 sons, Ezekiel, Zeke. He told me he wanted both names, so here he is. And this is Lazarus, Laz, are going to receive the award for her. It's always good to have able-bodied assistants to come help with things. Our next award is the Outstanding Alumnus Award. It's always an honor for us to be able to present this award. It's not easy to pick outstanding alumni because we have a lot of them. But we are honored this year to award the Outstanding Alumni Distinguished Alumnus Award to a very special person. This award demonstrates notable accomplishments, and the honorees have gained recognition by peers in their profession. They represent the ideals set forth by the mission and vision of Greenville University, and they demonstrate Christ-like character and loyalty to the university. They also demonstrate a continued love for learning, involvement in Christian endeavors, commitment to their churches, communities, and families. We have a short tribute video, and then we'll introduce our Outstanding Alumnus of the Year.
I was born in southwest Missouri, came to Greenville College in 1957 and graduated in 61. I ended up majoring in biology with a teaching degree and a minor in music, and I was able to see the lives of many Christian professors and workers at Greenville College who lived out their faith on a day-to-day basis, who showed me great concern and became role models for me the rest of my life. My greatest influence in my life was my parents, who worked at Greenville College for my last 2 years in college, and my first wife, who I met the first day at Greenville College and married her the evening of the day that we graduated from Greenville College. From Greenville College, I went to the University of Illinois on an assistantship, and there did research and taught in graduate school as a graduate student. So I put in one application at the University of Illinois Medical School and was accepted. That was my fleece, I felt, and it seemed to be God's direction. I went there for 4 years, graduated, did an internship, and was subsequently drafted into the United States Army and sent over to Vietnam. Following my experience there, I applied for a residency in surgery in the military and spent 4 more years doing that. Following that, we heard of a need for a surgeon from Kibigora Hospital in Rwanda. And so my wife, with our 4 children, went to Africa and served there from 74 to 76. It was a tremendous experience. Over the next many years, we spent 6 more years in Africa as missionaries, and then I completed 25 years in the military. That was followed by 4 years VA and 2 years at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in DC, 5 years of farming, and now I'm retired. Military life and missionary life are a bit different. But the point is, I should be the same. And God is the same, and the world is the same, the needs are the same. People need love, they need to be served, and wherever God leads us, that's where we should go. And that's what I've tried to do. So any honor for me is really not for me, it's the leading of the Lord. As I think of being a student today, if I had words of advice, it would be determine who you are and who God is and your relationship with Him. And then make sure that relationship is up to date by discipline of yourself to study the Word and prayer. There's nothing more important in your life than that.
Please join me in welcoming Dr. Burbridge to the podium. All right, we have one more. This is another fairly new award, and we are very excited to present it. This is the Briner Salt and Light Award. Recipients of this award are recognized as having outstanding professional and personal achievements while pursuing Christ's admonition to be salt and light in the world. This is personified in a commitment to fully integrate Christianity into daily living while pursuing professional goals that facilitate cultural change. To be salt and light is to believe that Christian faith and teaching belong in every arena of public discourse while accepting the biblical principle that in our own strength, we can do nothing. Another video.
My name is Lesley Burbridge, and I currently live in Los Angeles, California, and I'm originally from Spring Arbor, Michigan. I graduated from Greenville University in 1989, and I had a double major with degrees in biology and psychology. When I was at Greenville, I was involved in Ladies of El Panis, and I was involved in a lot of student government organizations. I was on the student guidance committee, but I also was the sports editor of the Papyrus, which is the school newspaper. Some of the most impactful people were people that I did work with the Agape Music Festival, with Mike Scanlon, and even through my majors, I still remember Dr. Stonebreaker was a great impact in my life. He worked very closely with me. Dr. Hearn, Dr. McAllister, they all really helped craft what I learned when I was there and really helped me learn life skills, but also helped me get through school and graduate. One of the most important things I was involved in at Greenville was the Agape Music Festival. It ended up being the path to my entire life career, which I didn't expect at the time. So I currently work at Rogers Cowan. They brought my business under their umbrella. I'm an executive vice president and I run a division for them. And we work with a lot of sports athletes, celebrities, television shows, films, book authors, but we're also able to work on any type of project that I feel I have a real heart for and that I feel is right for our department. We're able to work in what we've called the Faith and Family Division. They have brought in my company to help develop for them faith and family projects that work with different ministries and different churches and different even entertainment celebrity personalities who work on a lot of faith-based projects. What I love about my job and what I'm gifted to do and the ability to do it here with my projects that we work on and the interviews we organize, we're able to share a message of hope. To keep going and doing what I'm doing, at least in my career and in my life, is a real call from God, I feel, for why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I know that I learned that at Greenville. I learned it from my family. I learned it from so many great family friends and relatives. I keep one of Bob Briner's books, The Management Methods of Jesus, on my desk, and I have it sitting here today. I refer to it, I keep it on my shelf, and I still read his books and learn from him. And I'm grateful he did so much writing, and I'm grateful for his impact in this world, because it's taught me so much, and it still continues to teach me what God calls us to and how to live in this life today. If I was to give any advice to students today, I would tell them to, first of all, pursue what God would be leading you to. I actually don't believe that the will of God is a career. I believe that the will of God is our actions, it's our everyday character, it's how we've chosen to live our life, and it's how closely we follow Him. I learned that who you are in life is a lot more important than what you do with your life. And I would just say, try things. Go through the open doors. Be willing to risk. Go for something that might not seem like it's the path you thought it would be, because we all know that man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. And so plan your way. Plan what you think is right, but be open to what God directs, because that'll be the best path.
Please join me in welcoming Lesley Burbridge to receive the Briner Salt and Light Award. And now Suzanne Davis, our Executive Vice President, is going to come and introduce our speaker, who is Lesley Burbridge.
All right, so you've already heard quite a bit about Lesley's career in both Nashville and now in LA with Rogers Cowan as an EVP. She's worked with so many outstanding musicians, athletes, in their publicity, and she talked a little bit about that. But what I want you to know is her heart for the Lord and just following His call and being salt and light in an industry that maybe otherwise wouldn't have Christians so prominently placed in this industry. She has so many connections across the nation and the world in her ministry and outreach, started right here at Greenville University as I think over 4 generations, maybe 5 generations, we're not sure, of Greenville University alums that have come through this place. Even with her great-grandmother who came from Sicily, escaping mafia oppression, literally, in Little Italy in Chicago, and the first kind of true feminist in the way that she used her seamstress talents to minister to people all over Chicago. Lesley carries on that vision of how you can be salt and light to those around you in whatever your profession is and wherever you're called to go. So from her ministry in YWAM in Hawaii and all over the world, and now in LA working with top artists and athletes and musicians. It's just a phenomenal opportunity to have her here to speak to us. So without further ado, because we don't have a lot of time, which I'm sad to not be able to hear her full talk, but please welcome Lesley Burbridge.
Good morning. I'm actually going to put my watch here, and I'm going to follow some notes because I know we need to get out of here on time, and I want to help you be able to do that because I know all the students are dying to get back to class because I remember sitting in your seat many times. I'm actually very overwhelmed just being here today because when I look around and I see so many family and friends, and like Suzanne mentioned, there's many generations of our family that have been here. The last time I was actually in Greenville University Chapel, I thought it wasn't in this chapel, but it is in this chapel, but at the time it was the church. So it was the Free Methodist Church, and the school was called Greenville College, so forgive me if I keep saying college instead of university, but that's what it will always be to me. I can't even count, as was already mentioned, the generations of family and friends who have gone through here that have been a part of my life. Somehow, and to this day, I still can't quite understand it. I ask my mom about it on a regular basis, how my great-grandma Manoia and my grandmother Skatine ended up being able to send kids here and saved money to be able to bring their children to Christian higher education. I know now what that really meant, and so many generations of my family who've been here, I know it's really changed their lives. I'm sure that hundreds and hundreds of people have been affected because of my great-grandma and because of my grandmother and because of a decision that one woman made. And I carry that with me, and I think about that throughout my life, of how one simple decision that they made to send their children to a college like this has affected all of you in this room even, and it's affected many of us here today. The heritage is just great, and I will always be incredibly grateful. The last chapel here that I remember, I was actually standing in the same place, and it was funny because I was thinking about this last week when I was figuring out what I was going to say today. And funny enough, I was here doing the special music during one of our student chapels, and I assure you I will not do that today because you guys did a way better job than I would, or even dream of trying to do. My friend Michelle Fink and I actually were singing a song for the special music. Still trying to figure out why we were singing, and I'm sure most people that know me here wonder why that we were singing too. But even to make it even crazier, Michelle's mom was actually here playing the piano for us. I don't know how, but I do remember that. We didn't have a lot of classes together, but we might as well have grown up together because I met her brothers when they attended Greenville with my sister, and her parents went to Greenville with my parents too. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised that I have this random memory of Michelle's mom playing the piano and Michelle and me singing right here on the stage. What we did that day, to be honest, what I kept thinking of was what we did didn't really matter. I do hope it meant something to someone, but even if it didn't, it actually mattered to me, and it ended up changing my whole life. You may wonder how singing just a song in chapel at Greenville could have changed my life, but what I didn't know was the effect that a small, seemingly insignificant detail of that moment would have. I had no idea then, and sitting here today, you likely have no idea what seemingly simple experiences here at Greenville will mean to you or lead to forever. Michelle and I were singing a simple song called Send Me by an artist you may never have heard of named Twyla Paris. I don't know why we sang it, but I've actually never forgotten it. Yesterday, I knew as I wanted to share this, I thought, hey, I should pull that song up and listen to it again. And so I pulled it up in my car, and I didn't expect to do this at all. But the moment Twyla Paris sang the first words of that song, I actually welled up with tears, and I started crying in my car. Most people aren't usually crying on the busy 12-lane 405 freeway I was on, unless it was about the traffic. But actually, I just got so overwhelmed, and I didn't expect it. But as I listened to the words, it literally, almost physically brought me back right here to this very place. And I could feel at that very moment all those years ago, and that was a lot of years ago. And the thing about it was that I think really affected us about that song was just the pure outpouring of that singer's heart in a surrender to Jesus. And what moved me, and I felt it all over again, was that pure love and surrender, knowing who this person was and when she sang it, what she really meant and what she was asking God to do through her life. And I wanted that. And I clearly heard him say, even yesterday, don't ever forget that moment. Because I remember when Michelle and I sang a simple song called Send Me, we were actually asking God to do that in our lives, and he actually did. Because then I was immediately reminded of another day right here on this very stage in this chapel when my cousin, Kevin Manoia, was the guest speaker at GC Chapel that week, and his message radically changed the lives of one of my closest friends, Ryan, who surrendered his heart that day and accepted Christ. And I will never forget it. God prompted me in that moment again to just never forget that moment, to never forget that feeling, and never forget how much that meant. Those might have seemed like simple things, but they changed the course of at least 2 people for the rest of our lives, and I know many others for eternity. I want to encourage you today, don't forget those moments. You may not even know that they're happening at the time, but they are all around you here at this place at Greenville University. You see, singing that song, Send Me, meant something to us because those lyrics moved us. And we really wanted him to send us wherever, whatever that meant. We were singing a song, but we were really declaring what I had said before, that we wanted him to do that, offering our lives to him. And I think both of us could probably say he actually called us to something greater that day. He called me, and it wasn't to a career, it wasn't to a job. He called me to serve him. And you guys, you know, if you do that, it doesn't matter what you do ever in your life. The way that he defines it in serving him is what will define you. I realize the world doesn't tell us that much these days. It's not too popular, and it doesn't sell many books to tell people to die to yourself and to die to your own desires, to give up everything to serve him. But you know, the Word of God does. So oftentimes I've asked myself, well, what do we do with that? It's a little imbalanced from what the world teaches us. And you know, by saying that, I don't even mean reading enough, going to church enough, studying enough, learning enough. Obviously, we need to do those things, but I mean real surrender, submission, and sacrifice, even if required, to give of and even lose yourself. I know it sounds really exciting when you think about what you want to do for the rest of your life, because a lot of people, even in our culture today, I know most of the students here, you guys are all growing up in a very me-centered culture. We live in a me society, and I'll venture to say it's not just in the secular culture, but it's even in the church. It's in the Christian culture. Even Christian people are writing books about your best life, fulfilling your dreams, your purpose, your desires. I think those things are all fine, and we need encouragement in all those areas for sure. But I wouldn't be doing anyone here a service today by standing here if I didn't tell you that no matter what a career or a future when you leave Greenville will ever look like, it's not about your best anything. The world seeks after that, but when we seek him, he brings us just that. There's a worship leader named Klaus who says in one of his songs, when he's referring to the woman with the alabaster box who poured out everything that she had to him, and when she was even criticized for seeming to be wasting and giving out too freely and out of no abandonment to Jesus. And in his song, he says, if you are still counting your offering, you haven't realized yet his worth. And when you realize his worth and you realize what he's done for you and even putting you in a place like this, then you will want to give everything you have to him with free abandon. You see, I was a biology and a psychology major here at Greenville, and now I work at one of the biggest entertainment publicity firms in the world. And how that happens, there's really no explanation for it whatsoever. I was actually heading to physical therapy school. I was enamored with genetic counseling and science. And then one day in my junior year, my sister Patty, who's here today, with my mom, Pat, and my niece Taylor, Patty asked me if I wanted to come to the Agape Festival, and her boyfriend, Tim, now husband and Taylor's dad. So she asked me if I would attend. So I don't know if I've said this enough to her in my life, but really you can actually say I owe my entire future and my post-Greenville and life career path to my sister, and that's honestly the truth. I went with Patty and Tim to Agape that day, and at the end of the day, I wandered back by the fence alone. They may not have even noticed it or know I did this, but I sat up on that fence and I watched from the back of the crowd, and God was again doing something in my heart. There was a group called Greg and Rebecca Sparks that was singing a song called We Exalt Thee. And I never forgot that moment. She was kneeling on the stage, worshiping and just pouring out everything. As I looked around the crowd, I thought, okay, whenever we all leave here, what do we do with this? What do we do with this experience? What do we do with what we learned and what we got and what we gained today? And I know that everybody comes there and gets something, but I really believe that in those experiences, we're all sent into the world to use what we learned. We're all called, and the song that was being sung was really in true surrender to him, and it challenged me that day and has left an impression on my memory and my heart forever. There was a speaker that I heard my senior year of high school named Dwight Robertson. He was a great mentor of mine for many years, and he always gave this speech about the woman with the issue of blood and how so many people that day just brushed up against Jesus. There was hundreds and hundreds of people walking around, but the one woman reached out to actually touch him, and she's the one that was healed. And I know at a school like Greenville, it's easy to come here and just brush up against Jesus, or even in our culture, or even in our world today. But I'm going to challenge you and encourage you today to not be content to ever just brush up against Jesus. There were a lot of people at Agape that day who probably brushed up against Jesus, but thanks to my sister and my now brother-in-law, I was watching a crowd really reach out and touch him, and I was able that day to reach out and touch him, and I've been changed forever. Thanks, Patty. So fast forward, because I'm watching the clock and I'm fast forwarding myself, to the next summer when Michelle Fink and I were living in Dallas, Texas. That's a story for another time, with my cousin Kevin Manoia. this one won't make any sense either, but we were his youth pastors for the summer, and we were juniors at Greenville. And so we were living there, and the dean of the school at Greenville at that time had called and asked if I would run the Agape Music Festival. Michelle and I both had 2 majors. We were both on totally different paths. It made no sense, and we should have said no. But we prayed with Kevin. He had huge influence in our lives. And through that day, we both said yes. And we felt like God was really sending us. So we went back to campus. The only reason we really didn't want to do it is we had to come back from summer a week early, and we hated that idea. But while we were working on Agape, we had 20 staff members. We had an office in a little house here. We had all these big agents and people that we didn't know what these people did or who they were, and we're both trying to do our homework, and I'll date myself, I don't mind. We didn't have cell phones or laptops. And so we're trying to, check the voicemails on the landline and figure out how to try to work in this business. While we were there, Michelle and I took a little trip to Nashville, and we were part of GMA Week. There was a girl named Kelly Tolson who had a green dress on at a party, and I had no idea what she did, but I told Michelle that day that I wanted to do her job. She was a publicist, and I had no idea what that meant. And I just remember that at Agape, I had this on my heart based on the first time I ever visited that field. And it really reminded me of John 20:21, the verse that says, "As the Father has sent me, so send I you." And so the year that Michelle and I did Agape, we printed a huge black banner with white letters and put it all the way across the front of the stage with those exact words on it, so that everyone there that day, when they went out of there, they knew they were being sent to something greater. And I had Dwight Robertson come speak on the stage. Michelle was a year younger than me, and I saw a friend was going to YWAM. I don't know if you guys know of Youth with a Mission, but I figured until Michelle graduated, because we knew our calling on our life. We wanted to move to Nashville, Tennessee, and we wanted to work in the music business. And a lot of people had actually encouraged us and given us the ability to do that. But I went over to YWAM. I went to a discipleship training school in Hawaii while she finished her last year. I lived in the Philippines for 3 months while she finished Greenville. Well, funny enough, we had met all these great music business people, all these booking agents, all these record label people. We started to kind of figure out what some jobs in the Christian music industry would look like. She knew she wanted to go into marketing. I knew I wanted to go into publicity. Well, all of a sudden I felt called to go to YWAM in Hawaii for 3 more years. Made no sense again. And so the one story I want to kind of wrap this up with and tell you about, and just kind of maybe seal this time today of just what I might really want to relate to you and say to you, is that what I learned through all of these experiences is about Psalm 37:4, that says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." It doesn't say, do everything you can to fulfill your desires. Create ways to find that for yourself. It is clear, and if we delight in him, he will fulfill our desires. It's true. I can promise you, he will do so. And this is only my own story. It's only about what I live. But when I went to YWAM, I remember wanting to die to my own desires while I was there. I didn't want to talk about music, Nashville, or what I felt pulled or called to do with my life. But I figured that I was going to go there to do a discipleship training school, and I needed to focus on Jesus, not on my career, so I never talked about it. When they asked me to come back again to work on staff, I had asked one of the booking agents, named Charles Doris, in Nashville. I said, well, I want to move to Nashville. I got my resume ready. I'm ready to go apply for jobs. I said, if I move back to Hawaii and work in missions for 3 months, or what ended up being 3 years, I said, do you think I'm going to lose all my chances to work in this business? Which was obvious. And he said, yeah, you will. And I said, well, God's calling me here. It's a chance I'm going to have to take. So I went and worked in Hawaii on the mission field for 3 years. So the first week I went there, they came to me and they said, we have something we really have in our heart to do. I promise I don't make this story up when I tell you guys what I told you when I first walked up on this stage. They said, we have a contract here, and the leader of this base here really feels called to do a Christian concert here. So I said, all right. They said, so what we'd like your job to be here is to run that concert and help us organize it and promote concerts all over the Hawaiian Islands, India, Africa, Spain, all over the world. So they handed me the contract. I promise you the contract was a concert with Twyla Paris. And the name on the contract was Charles Doris, the booking agent I asked if I went there if I'd lose all my opportunities in the music business. So God brought the Nashville music industry to me in Hawaii. I built my career there. I did speaking engagements. I did concerts. I became one of the biggest concert promoters in Hawaii. And what's funny is when I finally made it to Nashville and I finally got the job I wanted at Word Records, a man named Dean Arvidsson called me into his office, and he said, "We have a publicist job available. We've been waiting for you to get back here. Where have you been?" Kelly Tolson, the girl in the green dress, it was her job. And I sat down, and I had my resume, and I'm like, "Can I please just read you my resume?" And he's like, "Well, I really want to know what you've been doing for 3 years in Hawaii." So I tell him all my stories about YWAM. I tell him my stories about missions. I tell him my stories about what I was doing and felt God called me to do and why I wasn't in Nashville. And he said, "Okay, well, the job's yours if you want it." And I walked away from there. He hired me to run the PR department at Word Records. I was there 8 years. Ended up leaving there, started my own business. Now Rogers & Cowan in Los Angeles bought out that company and brought me under their umbrella to run a division for them there, and I've been there 10 years. So in my own experience, I know that delighting yourself in the Lord will give you the desires of your heart. That's not going to be everybody's story. Everybody won't walk that same path. But one of the things I do want to say is that there are places and there are times that will touch your life, and you'll have moments. I didn't know why I was so pressed with that song and what was going on and what it meant to know that God would send me. But I want to challenge you today where those moments are. What's happening in your life? What's there of times that you'll never forget? Little simple things that you might think mean nothing. They mean something to Him, and He'll use it for you. President Filby had asked me if I would just finish up with a benediction here, and I thought it was very fitting when he mentioned that to me, that I would like to read our benediction today, to read a prayer, to read a blessing, because I just so happened to print up the lyrics to this song called Send Me, and I felt like it was very fitting to be standing on the same stage. I will not be singing it, I will be reading it, and it will be a prayer, hopefully for all of us today. If I close my ears to the feeble cry of the poor man's child as he passes me by, I can mark your word, there will come a time when my cries will fall on ears like mine. Here am I, Lord, send me. Here am I, Lord, send me. Father in heaven, show your mercy, please send me. That his hope should die, this was not your plan. You have willed that I would become your hands, Lord. When I feel your pain and it fills my eyes, when my heart is yours, I will stand and cry. Here I am, Lord, send me.